What up?
Yo,
Welcome to Back to the Basics, our very first episode.
episode
dude.
1.
My name is Josh,
I'm Eddie.
and together we've been really talking about this for quite some damn time, and I'm so flippin' excited that we're sitting here today, man.
Yeah, dude, it's been a long time coming, man, and I'm excited to finally get the ball rolling on this. 'Cause
Hell yeah.
We have a lot of ideas, a lot of episodes up and coming, and this is just
Dropping a bucket.
Yeah, this is the first of many.
So we want to welcome you to our dojo here where we do our filming and our recording and all that fun shit. We got a lot of good stuff. For sure the podcast, though, as of today, we're going to be jumping off with the 90s. I mean,
nostalgia at its core,
yeah,
dude.
It's what we love. It's what we live for. I love nostalgia. It gives me that warm home
the warm
feeling.
fuzzies.
That fuzzies, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how we love them warm fuzzies. You know what I'm saying?
So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about everything summers in the 90s. So basically our childhoods growing up, what we experienced.
Water balloons.
Yeah, man. What drive-in movie theaters.
Yeah, action figures and
Rhinos.
Super Nintendos and Rhinos and
Sega
shit.
Genesis. Yeah. So join us on this journey of the podcast that we're going to be putting out every Saturday morning, right?
Every Saturday morning, right? You got that nostalgic. It's like the most nostalgic moment of the week is that Saturday morning, as long as you got the day off, though, right?
Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And we do want to let you guys know about our social medias, obviously.
Oh,
Everyone's
yeah.
got them. You know what to do if you want to support the show. You want to support us, go ahead and give us a follow. And we do want to remind you that every episode is going to have a video form over on our YouTube channel, Back to the Basics, or the audio form of the normal podcast on whatever platform you listen to your podcast on. So there's a couple different options, and we're excited about them. We're excited, so we're going to jump right into today's show. Also, live streams. I forgot. We like to play video games, and we got our live stream over on twitch.tv/Back to the Basics. I'm excited.
Video games all day. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. We're also on there, so tweet us. And with that being said, let's dive into today's episode.
Let's get it.
90s.
Yo, what's up, my
Yo,
dude?
man, what's up, dude?
Dude, chilling. Crazy times, but fun times, exciting times.
yeah.
I'm happy to have you here, dude.
Oh, happy to be here,
Dude,
dude.
we got our own dojo.
Let's do this. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
What we talking about today, man?
You were talking about the other day, it kind of just had me reminiscent, super nostalgic, is drive-in movie theaters.
Yeah, dude, I love them. Drive-in movie theaters, it's classic.
I think, well, you know what's, I think as of right now too, they're going to be making like a huge resurgence.
Yeah.
I'm thinking they will be. I think in the next couple of years, you're going to be seeing probably more drive-in theaters being built around you. I mean, I don't know how many drive-in movie theaters there are.
I would love to see that. Honestly, like drive-in movie theaters, that right now is where it's at because you got you got all the rules and everything, all the social distancing that you can capitalize on, and you can, from the safety of your car, you're not next to anyone. And so that in the 90s and the 80s, they were king, drive-in movie theaters. And somewhere along the way, that stopped being popular with all these
Why?
big screen, big movie theaters.
I've never honestly, like, as a kid, I was actually blessed to be. I mean, there was drive-in movie theaters around where we lived, so
Yeah.
we went to the drive-in movie theaters more than the walk-in.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what you call them. I always call them the walk-in.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people called them when they were popping up. They
Yeah.
were walk-in movie theaters. So
Yeah,
you had that difference.
It was weird. I was honestly, I was never comfortable walking into a room full of weirdos. Like, I'm sitting, and it's just like, because you're not, it takes away, I think, from the experience. Like, when you go with your family, dude, you roll up, you got one of your little cousins shoved in the trunk, you know what I'm saying? You got an ice chest in the back seat,
Lawn chairs.
all kinds of
Yeah.
good shit, right?
Mhm.
And you're hanging out with your family and your friends, and you, like you said, you have that distance between you and the other car. I was always raised. We always sat outside in front of the car,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of people had pickup trucks and they
Or-
sit in the back, which was obviously legit people put like mattresses in those egg crate,
blankets,
all that
pillows.
stuff.
You just like make a makeshift
Pallet.
mattress.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's king. But we always put our stuff outside, and we sat on the, put hella blankets down, laid on the ground, stuff like that, and kind of like a park. And man, I'll tell you, man, that experience when the sun is setting and the cold breeze starts flowing through, and the movie screen pops on, you got those advertisements, and you got somebody coming back from even though you brought all this food, you still went to the went to the food shack and got all kinds of shit,
nachos, candy, popcorn.
But there's that compared to walking in, sitting down right next, like someone farts and like 10 people smell it, right?
Yeah,
and
you feel a little claustrophobic.
It's too many people.
You feel a little crammed.
You're not experiencing, I don't think, the same experience, obviously. But, dude, walk-in movie theaters.
And I've had good experiences in walk-in movie theaters, but when I remember being a child and going to the drive-in, like you said, it's much the experience of it. It's the overall, like you said, the sunset going down, all the theater, the screens come on and the lights, and then you have that cool breeze.
Yeah, I
the
love
smell
it.
of the popcorn and everything. And it's just a different experience. So in the 90s and the 80s, it was king, dude. And that was the highlights, some of the highlights of the summer in like the 90s. And so me as a kid, dude, I live for that. And so I'm excited that they're making a resurgence, because I can't wait to experience that again.
Yeah, I was on a Twitter thread the other day, and there's a lot of people out there that don't know that there are still drive-in movie theaters around.
Yeah,
there's one
crazy.
not far from us.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And a lot of people that live here don't even know that.
I've been seeing that a lot of people are going to start going to, because
Yes.
now it's becoming more popular.
Obviously,
It's because it's the only avenue now.
To go watch a movie.
To have that theater experience.
Yeah.
And so everybody's flocking to it.
Yeah.
I think the one around us just opened up this weekend, and it was like sold out.
Why do you think that like drive-in movie theaters always had 2 movies, and
Dope, huh?
the normal cinemas only had 1?
Yeah, one.
What is that?
I
Unless
think-
you're like in high school and you just hop movies, right? You just walk into the other one.
Yeah.
You little assholes. But,
yeah. And that is true. You get 2 for the price of 1, and they might charge a little extra, but honestly, it's the same rate that you're paying for the movies right now. You're paying about $10 and you get 2 movies.
Yeah.
And you get to actually bring in food. And most places they charge by car and not by person.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
shove your cousins in the trunk.
Yeah, you get like 10 of you in there at the same time.
Yeah, all of a sudden you pulling up to the movies like Scooby Doo, and everyone's just coming out the van and shit. You're like, yeah, we out here, player.
Just
We
about
out
to
here.
solve mysteries.
Having a good time.
But yeah, dude, it why they only play. I'm guessing why they only play 1 is more bang for their buck. You have to pay for separate movies, and it's just smarter industry wise. But at the drive-in, you definitely get more of your money's worth.
I think it's a better experience, and I think that I'm excited for a whole new generation of people to experience that.
Yeah.
There's many generations of people that maybe have never even experienced going to a drive-in movie theater,
And that was always my thing with the drive-in movie theaters. You can not only play the new releases, but you can play some of the old school nostalgic stuff too, and just go on a regular like Sunday night, Friday night, and go watch Terminator 2.
Yeah, it's Back to the Future.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
you know?
dude, I hope they start doing that.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of movie theaters that have those, like over the last like 10, maybe even 15
It's
years.
becoming more popular.
Yeah, you have those retro nights, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have that old school.
I would love to go see a retro movie.
Ghostbusters too.
Ghostbusters 2, one of my favorites.
Ugh.
And you go to the drive-in to see it, dude.
Yeah.
That's the dream come true right there.
You ever get taken to the drive-in when you were younger, and obviously you don't get to pick, right?
Yeah.
It's whatever
It's
whatever
whatever
your
they're
parents
playing.
want. And you ever like for the second movie, you ever like be so uninterested in the movie you're watching
Yeah.
and just like turn around and you're just like watching the other one from the other parking lot side? Yeah.
We've gone and actually driven around
Oh,
to the
no!
other side and
course, of course.
watched the other ones.
They don't care. They got
Nah.
their money.
One of the last movies that I can actually remember seeing in the drive-in, it was when I was a little older. It was Superman Returns.
No way.
Superman Returns. I think it was like 2003
In all its glory.
or 5 or something. Yeah. But for me at that time, besides Smallville, that was
Superman. Yeah,
you
of
know?
course.
And so I was just in awe just watching this epic movie on the drive-in theaters, and like I didn't even go to theaters to watch it. I went to the drive-in to watch Superman Returns for the first time, and it was
Yeah,
epic.
I'll put that
It's
movie.
clean.
I'll put that movie on a pedestal real quick.
Yeah.
The scene where he's in Metropolis and all that glass falls, and he flies by the street, and then he uses his laser eyes, and he just like melts all the glass, disintegrates it, and then he uses his ice breath like into the tunnel
Clean,
or whatever. Like, yeah, those two scenes, that, and then I think the best like scene in that movie was when he was holding Lois and the boat. Remember, he lets the boat fall,
He lets the boat go,
and he's just holding the two.
Yeah,
the
dude,
two,
there's
oh
a
my-
lot of epic scenes
Yeah.
in that movie.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor, he was, to me, that was a really sick Lex Luthor. She's like, "You're crazy," and he's like, "Wrong!" Like,
he was a little out there. He was a maniac.
Yeah, he was sick.
Like in the summers, right? I think because honestly, when I think of the '90s, you know, I was born in the '80s, but when I think of the '90s, growing up in the '90s, it's the summers,
Yeah, they were the best,
right?
dude.
Because you're outside with your friends, everything's, you know, all this stuff's happening. You're being hit. You know, you have amazing things like the Power Rangers, right? All over TV. You have the toys everywhere. You have Ninja Turtles and
I'm
shit.
pretty sure
and
that movie came out summer of like '96 or something, or like '98.
the Power Rangers movie.
Yeah, the
no,
Power
no,
Rangers
no, no,
movie.
I don't know about no Power Rangers movie. No, I'm just saying I love that.
Mighty
I don't know
Morphin
about
Power
Ivan Ooze is the most cringiest. But like, dude, I would rather. You know, and you know what's funny? I can't even finish a thought. But you know what's funny is everyone complains about Ivan Ooze, but it's like, are you? When's the last time you watched the first couple seasons of Power Rangers?
You want to take a whack at it?
Dude, go back and watch that and tell
It's
me
super
that
cringe.
they're not all cringe,
It's
dude.
super cringe.
They're some of the most weirdest,
Terrible.
cringiest villains ever.
Yeah. But it's epic at the same time,
that movie was epic.
especially for its time in the '90s. You know, they did some things that had not been done in like a family-friendly, like action movie.
It was the suits
For
for me. It was the suits. You go from the spandex to that film, and you see that thick leather. That
I
thick
remember
leather,
that's what you texted me. You were
Oh
like,
my
"Oh, that thick leather suits." They had a legit suits. It was no
They
longer
were so
spandex.
good,
it was
dude.
pretty sick.
Yeah. But yeah, Power Rangers, Street Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars, all that greatness. You had all these Saturday morning cartoons, right? This is like every angle, dude. In the 90s, you were hit with everything. The morning was full of fucking X-Men and all this fucking awesome Spider-Man cartoons. And then you have the afternoon, you're hanging with your friends, you're playing with action figures or doing whatever or going to your buddy's house and playing some Super Nintendo,
Yeah.
some Sega Genesis, right?
I thought you were gonna say Super Mario Bros, but yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
dude.
Super Mario World. That was my game right there on Super
Yeah.
Nintendo, dude. That was like probably the first game I was ever introduced to.
Still, I
Like-
think competitor for like the best Mario game of all time. Still.
I'll still play that today.
Dude.
Yeah, exactly. And so that for me, video games. You know, once the sun starts going down and you're hanging out with your friends, and you
The
start to
best.
get a little creative. You
Yeah.
start to you know, get some sheets and get some chairs and
Some forts.
Yeah, man, you got to make the fort. And so you're building a fort around like your TV and your game systems, and you're playing video games
the
while
best.
in your fort. Watching watching Power Rangers the movie on VHS.
Dude.
Those summer nights.
Summer loving.
Yeah. Have me a blast.
Dude, I love that song. What's wrong with people who don't like Grease? What's wrong with you, dude?
Those summer nights. Grease is where it's at. Grease is a very nostalgic movie for me. It was probably one of the first musicals I was ever introduced to was Grease. And nowadays I'm a huge musical guy, but I love music and everything like
musicals
that.
are musicals. There needs to be more musicals.
There's
in this world.
Unfortunately, nowadays there's not a lot of musicals coming out, but yeah, Grease was one of the legit, and there's just so much style and epicness in Grease and
Swag in that movie, dude.
yeah, and that was something I grew up with in the '90s, coming up, and shit, we'd put it on every summer and watch it during the summers. And
Dude, I love blasting the shit out of that soundtrack. Not every song, obviously, but I have my little playlist. I love blasting that in like Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings, like on my days off.
Stranded at the drive-in.
Oh!
Bread in a food. That's one of my favorite songs right there.
What was going on with that? I've heard people tell me that like she's dead. What's the theory with Grease?
Sandy? Oh,
Sandy's dead.
Yeah.
And remember when he talks about like what's his name in the movie?
Danny.
Danny. Yeah,
Danny
Danny.
and Sandy.
Danny and Sandy.
Danny Zuko.
Yeah, dude,
Danny
the best.
Zuko. But yeah, that's the
Is
reigning theory.
Remember when Danny said that he saved a girl last summer?
Yeah.
Right? I've heard theories talking about she died.
That was her.
That was her, and he failed.
Okay.
And then that's why that was her summer dream.
Crazy.
Grease was her summer dream. And then that when she flies off into the sky.
Yeah, they
What's
fly
up
off
with
in that car into the sky.
What is that?
So maybe he was dead the whole time too. And maybe this is both there because they fly off together in the end. So
Do they?
She can't be dead unless he dies somewhere along the movie. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of people that break it down, like the
Yeah.
theory of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's like you can see her transition, right? You
Well,
see
if
her
you-
go from like innocent to
Yeah.
basically like
But if
badass.
you know anything about theories, you know.
I love them.
Same.
I just think that was interesting.
Yeah,
I was like,
no,
wait a minute, I gotta go back and watch this movie. What do you mean she's dead?
No, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it myself and dissect it because that's a pretty interesting one
Yeah.
there.
Um,
But yeah, man, summers for me were probably, I would say the end all be all for me during summers was the water fights.
Oh, Super Soakers.
Yeah, super soakers and sunsets and water fights and the behemoth, the end all be all grenade balloon.
Yes.
I know you had some grenade balloons.
Dude, I think I still have those somewhere.
No.
I bought them a couple years ago. I don't know. That could be gone. It was actually shit about 10 years ago. I found those in a dollar store. I don't know if those are still on the market.
I don't think so, dude.
But if anybody remembers that, dude,
I have not seen
water
a grenade
balloons,
balloon.
like, dude, if I grew up in apartment complexes and stuff, and when you have like 10 or 7 different kids chucking water balloons at each other, you're in the fucking trenches, right? You're in the trenches and shit is real. But when you see little Sally throw her yellow water balloon at you, you're like, "Bing, get out of here, you little bitch," right? and then you pull back and you have your grenade water balloon.
So epic.
That shit explodes. The water explosion is twice as
And
big
they were
as a
bigger.
normal.
And they were bigger than just the regular
I love
sized little balloons.
I love
and,
them, dude.
we would get like little like the red bins or little ice chests and just fill them full of grenade balloons, dude. And those were like our like last resort. So we would go through all the crappy water balloons first, and then we had the grenade balloons.
Yes, the
It was
best.
Fuck
The
people
best,
up.
dude.
Yeah.
Grenade balloons, super soakers, pop cap guns. You remember that shit?
Yeah.
Those little plastic guns that had that little pop. And they used to like catch on fire and
Those
shit.
sick.
The best,
Those
dude.
are sick.
I still see those in dollar stores.
Did you ever have the pack that had the super soaker on your back filled with water?
Yes.
So you would like unscrew them.
It looked like a flamethrower.
Yeah,
It literally
that
looked like
was
a
sick.
flamethrower. It was a giant. I remember it was like a giant yellow plastic pack,
Mm-hmm.
and you had like this long ass phallus looking fucking.
I felt like a Ghostbuster with that shit on.
Yeah, I
the
guess so.
pack and just like
Yeah.
proton.
You know what's weird? When I was really young, I wasn't really into Ghostbusters. Like when I was young.
Yeah.
It was more like in the teens.
Well, I think the first one I ever saw was part 2, Ghostbusters 2.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first one I ever saw. So that was my introduction to Ghostbusters, and part 1 was a little bit older, and so I was like, I'm just gonna watch Ghostbusters 2 the rest of my life. But
Ghostbusters 2 scared the shit out of me as
so
a kid.
good.
That painting,
Vigo.
The eyeballs, dude.
Vigo.
And another thing too that really scarred me was the slime coming out of the bathtub.
Yeah.
Because of
pink
it.
ooze.
It. When I was a kid,
So scary.
me and my brother were my stepmom was reading us a story. Okay.
Oh, he gonna tell some ghost stories now.
Yeah. She was reading us a story, and for some reason, it was on in the background, right?
No.
Right?
She
I'm
set the
focusing on
scene,
this
dude.
story. I'm focusing on this story, right? And this fucking movie is playing, right? And it's just like as a kid, your eyeballs just go straight to the TV, right? Listening to this book, and then, but it was the scene in the bathtub where all the blood comes out and shit like that. It scarred me, bro. I couldn't sit on the toilet for
Dude.
years, dude.
Oh yes, I remember you telling me this. That's wild.
That scared. That actually scared. Like traumatically, I think fucked with my brain for many years. And when I
Traumatized.
saw that in Ghostbusters 2, it just it brought back all that shit.
It's just like wave of it, and it's like pink ooze, right? It's
Yeah.
just like coming out of her bathtub, and it like tries to get her as she runs away.
It's crazy the way you see things like that as a child, right? That's scary. I watch it now and I'm just like, you should see the things I do in the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot scarier than that. But it's like, it's weird as a kid the way you perceive it, in the way it's just like, oh, like I'm in the bathroom alone, like as a child, and like this
Yeah,
shit's
it's
coming out to
scary.
get me.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Is the 90s and the 80s were famous for those types of scary movies, and Ghostbusters wasn't really scary, but as a kid, you're seeing that, and you're seeing Michael Myers and Jason and Freddy, and all those movies were coming out, and that's for me the 90s was like the horror scene was just like
Hardcore.
exploding.
Yeah.
And you don't have that really anymore. You have like exorcisms and stuff like that, and but the golden age for me of like the horror scene was like 80s coming into the 90s.
I think, I don't know.
And then it
and
started
they
getting
were
a
all
little-
ripping each other off too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, anybody who knows, like they were all just like stealing shit from each other. But now, yeah, it's really weird because like there's like this whole gore. Like everyone's into gore.
Nothing's
right? Like
a
Saw,
horror film anymore.
Saw really changed it, and people were like, "Oh, like they like horror, they like gore
Horror.
movies."
Yeah.
And then now, the horror movies are all just like demons and ghosts, and they're all the same. They're not scary, and they just have like these pop out things, right?
Yeah, man, you gotta.
That is not scary compared to Michael fucking Myers.
Oh, a slasher killer chasing you down. You're fucking
just chilling in your hallway.
popping out of your closet, just like
And I think that
little Chucky running by.
were you ever more scared of? Were you ever like in the 90s and as a kid? Were you ever more scared of an actual like human that does harm, or like a creature?
Oh, the human. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, because all the horror movies, they were mostly all humans. I mean, you had Chucky, which was a doll, but I mean,
Yeah.
he was still the soul of a human. And so, like, Freddy Krueger was probably the scariest for me when I was a kid. I watched a lot of Freddy Krueger
That's
movies.
weird. I hated Freddy as a kid.
Oh, those razor sharp knives. And the thing is you weren't safe whether you were awake or asleep. That was my thing. It's like because you could think you're awake, but really you fell asleep like 10 minutes ago, and it's just, and he's got
Super
you,
lucid.
and you got a hand coming through your stomach,
Yeah.
and then you're just done.
Yeah, Freddy's interesting.
Gives me chills. Just
Yeah.
yeah, Freddy Krueger, man.
I'm always hardcore Friday the 13th Jason fanboy.
Dope.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
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 Like I'm really like like I'm a huge Tupac fan. And so like
Yeah.
whoever Tupac, like growing up in the 90s and in 2000s, just like obsessing over Tupac, whoever Tupac didn't like, fuck them, right? I don't care. Like all those
Yeah.
people, same thing.
no biggie,
Same-
no biggie Smalls.
Yeah, no. Same thing with horror. If it ain't Jason, you're whack.
Yeah.
I have respect for the franchises. I like to watch them.
Oh, Michael Myers, dude. The only thing with Michael Myers is it made like Halloween like spooky for me. It like
Well,
as soon
Halloween
as you,
should be spooky.
Yeah, but even more so, like
Yeah.
you start to see the jack-o'-lanterns, the lights coming up, and then like you just automatically pair the two like images together in
yeah.
your brain.
You
It's
gonna
like,
die, right?
yeah, you
I-
see you see the pumpkin, and then you
I
automatically
always think of
Michael Myers.
honestly, from the '90s. When I think of Halloween, I always think of Goosebumps.
Oh,
Hardcore
yes.
Goosebumps, dude.
And see, that was cool too, man, because you had horror for the kids, and that was cool, man.
I loved it, dude.
Yeah,
Absolutely
Goosebumps.
loved Goosebumps books. It got a little weird. It got weird.
Towards the end.
There was like a series of the Goosebumps books where I stopped reading them. Was where like the front covers were like sparkly and shit, and there was like
No.
a giant like a grasshopper and like there was one where it was like the pet of a classroom was like a hamster, and then
I remember that one.
yeah, that was when I kind of fell off. I was like, all right.
When I was at the height of Goosebumps is when you were able to choose your endings, like choosing the story. So it's like, if you want to continue this, flip to page so and so,
Do you
page
dare?
15. Oh, that for me was like cool, because you were like, well, shit, I could continue with the story and see how this ends up, but it's probably scarier if I flip to
Yeah.
page 52 and.
I think those were amazing. I mean,
was
I don't know
dope.
exactly what those are called, but the books, like
Yeah.
I remember a couple of them growing up in school. They had them in school where it was like fantasy novels, like D&D type stuff, but you can choose and make decisions as you're reading the book. And I know now, like Netflix, they're
Yeah.
playing around with that, with the whole
Yeah.
Bandersnatch
That was cool.
interactive, dude. And I'm saying like, hell yeah, dude, interactive film. Let's do it. They already do it with video games where they have like actors and they're actually
those
filmed.
are my favorite video games too.
Which
where
ones?
where you get to choose the outcome and the ending
Oh.
of the whole story, and you have different scenarios.
You're like
and-
Telltale, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's cool to me.
Walking.
Those are,
Have you played the Telltale Walking Dead games?
I've played probably like episode 1, like the first season, or
The first game, the first season, or
yeah,
the first episode?
the first season.
So you
that's
know
what-
who Clementine is?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clementine.
He's looking at me all crazy.
It's canon, dude.
Hey, it's clean too, man. I mean, Glenn's even in it.
Glenn's in it.
Yeah,
A lot of characters.
Glenn. Yeah.
But yeah, that it's fun. Like honestly, do you remember Otter Pops?
Oh yeah,
What's your favorite color?
blue.
What?
The light blue.
Pink. Fight me right now.
Those were really good. I
I'll
remember-
power bomb you right now and take that belt.
you ain't taking
I'm
this
taking
belt.
that belt.
The only way you're gonna take this belt is because if you look closely, it says Mario Kart champ.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It looked like it says Josh the Champ. That's
so
what it
the
looked
only
like.
way you gonna take that belt from me is if you beat me in some Mario Kart.
All right.
And you already know what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna leave here with that. So. But see, that's the other thing. Is video games during the '90s, dude.
Yeah.
They were just so epic. You had Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, Sega Genesis.
Remember, Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Sega.
You
'cause-
remember that. Clothesline you.
Where's Sega at right now? Where they at?
All over my room, player.
Sega.
Sega. I think Microsoft owns them, but I don't know, something like that. Dude, I you know what I always think about when I think about '90s in the summer is Ninja Turtles, dude. Hyperstone Heist was on Sega Genesis, right? And now I remember growing up in the apartment complex, I had Hyperstone Heist. This other little shithead had a Super Nintendo. I didn't have a Super Nintendo
Yeah.
as a kid, right?
Mm.
Always had friends and neighbors had Super Nintendos.
My
I had a
cousins always
Sega.
had the Super Nintendo.
And so I didn't like this little shithead, but I used to always go to his house because we used to play Turtles in Time.
Dude, that was my game. For Ninja Turtles, it was
Yeah,
Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time
Yeah.
is classic. I grew up with Hyperstone Heist, but and that's always literally has been like one of my favorite Sega games.
The
on
Ninja
that
Turtle
console.
games are just sick, dude. And I don't know why they don't make any like currently like continuing the.
You do know they remastered
Did they?
Turtles in Time.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna have to play.
It was on Xbox 360.
I see. I didn't know that.
What?
And I had a 360,
Yeah.
but I think I started to fall off, and I moved to PS4. And once I
Yeah.
hit PS4, it was just like done.
But yeah, dude, the going to your friend's house and playing games, and it's just like they had cartridges you didn't have,
Mm.
or what have
Yeah.
you, and it was the best, dude.
Yeah,
and
you just everything.
you
just,
had mentioned forts, the sun setting, you're outside playing around, and you go in or you go to your friend's house and have a sleepover. It was, I honestly, and I don't understand this with getting old, you know, everyone says the older you get, time passes
Oh,
faster.
we'll have a sleepover right now.
And I remember sleepovers lasted days.
Oh yeah.
Like the time slows. Like as a child,
Yeah.
you were having so much fun. Time, and I think it's like once you pass that barrier of you're not even perceiving time
'Cause
because
weren't
you're
thinking about it.
enjoying.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about it. It's like just goes like hyperbolic time chamber, Dragon Ball Z shit. You know what I'm saying? And building a fort. You know what it is, dude? It's imagination,
Yeah.
right? As a kid, you're playing with your action figures, you're playing with your friends, you're coming up with crazy shit to do in all these scenarios, you're wrestling, you're coming up with characters, you're coming up with all these scripts, and everything is just back to back as a kid, just imagination. Building a fort, bro, you're building your own castle.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
just like, what can you build, right?
Exactly. The sky is the limit, and that's why I used to love Legos so much. Is because you can literally build anything. So it was like a little miniature fort.
Lego.
You know, you just building a bunch of Legos, and probably before that, Lincoln Logs.
Lincoln Logs, that's my shit, dude.
Yeah, Lincoln Logs was sick too, dude. So it's and that's the nostalgic feeling is trying to capture that feeling that you had as a child. You had that creativity, you had that imagination, you had that no concept of time and how much time has gone by because it was just endless. You were just having fun with your friends and building shit and playing video games. But once that street light came on, man, you were once that street light came on, you were inside,
Dude. Street lights,
You were inside, dude.
Street lights were the all-seeing enemy, right? That fucking street light comes up on, and you all kind of look at each other like, fuck. And then you just go, let's just chill. And then you wait for, you know,
one of the
your
kids'
mom.
moms.
Yeah, someone, you know, it's like get inside. You're like, oh shit, they coming, they gonna whoop our ass. Like we gotta go inside, see you tomorrow.
Yep. And so
Street
that's why we
lights.
started going over to people's houses once the street light came on, because it's like we don't want to stop hanging out, so we're all gonna go have a sleepover.
You remember that whole just like that weird vibe? We're just like, hey, you want to have a sleepover? You want to hang out and play some games all night? Yeah. Well, and then you got to tell like your parent or whatever. They have to like call the other parent on the landline, right? You know that weird. Oh well, I just want to make sure. And it's like this weird shit. It's like when you're like when you first get a girlfriend, and then like you're like as a teenager or whatever, and your parents have to meet.
Yeah.
It's like that super like
It's awkward.
you're just staring at her like. Can't wait for this shit to be over. Like what, you know what I'm saying? It's like
Because you
super
just
weird.
want to go do your own thing.
Oh,
you just
go
wanna
close
hang
that
out.
bedroom door, player. But yeah, dude. Forts to me is always like something when I think of like nostalgia that just warms my heart. It's those sleepovers,
Yeah.
you know. And you know, it's like everybody who's done a sleepover with a best friend, or even anybody. Friend, you know, because sometimes you get pushed into having a sleepover with like your best friend's friend.
Yeah. People
Like,
you
and-
don't really care for or don't
Yeah,
really
and,
like
and
that
you're
much.
all laying down in the room, and you turn the lights off. It's time to go to sleep, and you sit there and talk in the dark for like 2-3 hours. I love that. That was the best.
It was
Dude.
cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natural conversation.
Yeah, and my thing was always, once the parents do say the lights off, oh, it's time to go to bed. You're having the sleepover, but then you flick on your flashlight and you start reading some comics, dude.
Yeah.
That was when comics as a kid was big, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You can just sit there and read comics in your little tent with your flashlight,
Mhm.
and it was just sick, man.
Classic.
Those were the days.
Were you a savage with comics as a
Um,
kid? Like I'm talking like handheld, like holding the comic, flipping the pages.
I used to love having comics, like the physicality of it,
Yeah.
but my brother had them all. My brother was the one who would just go and collect them. So I was fortunate enough to have a bunch, but only because he got them. Because he's a little older than me.
So would he let you read his comics?
He would, only certain ones though. Like he had the Death of Superman, but he had it in a plastic.
Yeah.
He would never let me touch it.
Yeah.
Because that was like the Superman comic. It was
Yeah.
like the legit, like
Mhm.
the Death of Superman. So he kept that one on the wall.
Yeah. You just
And-
throw that one away, act like it didn't exist. No, I'm just kidding.
That one was sick.
No,
dude.
it's great. I'm just saying Superman, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see Superman die.
He
Nobody.
loved that one, but yeah. So he would have a bunch of comics, and I would and that's how I was introduced to a lot of stuff. is through my brother because he
Yeah.
was a little older. So anything that he was kind of into, I was like, oh well, what's he playing? What's he reading over there? And so I would jump on it, and that was kind of the staple point for everything that I ended up loving throughout my years of the '90s. Is I was just introduced to from like
Yeah.
my cousins or my friends. Everybody's usually a little bit older than I am.
Okay.
So I just ride the coattails,
Yeah,
but
there you go.
it's cool, man. I was fortunate to be introduced to a lot of really awesome things in the '90s. So that's, but for me, comic books, that's where I fell in love with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Dude.
That was one of the first comics I ever remember reading was a Spider-Man comic.
90s artwork on comics.
Oh
It will always be my favorite.
yeah,
Always be. Then yeah, Jim
hands
Lee,
down.
like I got right behind me. Jim Lee X-Men, dude, my favorite.
That
I
was one
loved
of my favorite cartoons to watch every like Saturday morning.
Saturday mornings, dude. Run. Okay, roll the dice, dude. You only have one. Spider-Man or X-Men.
Oh, X-Men. Yeah, X-Men.
Okay, I know everybody loves the X-Men.
X-Men,
The intro.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
but tell me why you would choose the X-Men over Spider-Man.
There was more of them. There was like this team, and everyone had a different power, and you have a lot of that in Spider-Man, but it's like Spider-Man, and then
Yeah.
all his villains.
He
You know
got
what I
his
mean?
out. There's a lot of allies in the show, though. There's
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
It shows you a lot from the
Mhm.
comics.
Oh, that show is like
The best.
yeah. And the one thing that I loved the most is when they blended the two cartoons.
Oh, Secret Wars.
The Secret Wars, and that
Madam
was
Web.
something that I always wanted to see, like a live action one day. But
When Storm speaks to Spider-Man, I'm just like, yo, what the fuck is happening? This is amazing, dude. This is amazing.
my favorite part was when Iron Man's suit basically went to shit and he couldn't do anything, and he was just laying there,
Iron Man,
just
dude.
dying. And I was like, this is your hero.
Jeez, dude. No, it's not. Yeah, dude. The animation and there was like this huge boom too in the 90s of 80s cartoons that just boomed with get a cartoon line, get a toy line.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Boom, dude.
yeah.
Like huge.
I had a lot of Spider-Man toys, dude. Otto Octavius. I had like this little plastic green one, and it was sick, dude.
Yeah.
The toys, and that's the other thing is all the cartoons and the movies and everything led to these sick toy lines.
Yeah. The action figures in the 90s, action figures was my life. Like that's what it was. It was video games and action figures.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, at that point we didn't have, obviously I had a small collection of like Disney big box VHSs. Like you remember the classic Disney
My mom
ones?
would collect them, dude.
Yeah, I loved it. I had like Iron Will, Angels in the Outfield type stuff.
Yeah.
Great movies that I grew up with, and it was always a small collection of VHSs, right? I never had like this huge collection like we have DVDs and Blu-rays now,
Mhm.
but it was toys. It was toys and Nintendo, games basically, right? And that was huge to me.
I think I had more toys because the game systems were a little more expensive, and my parents were like, we're gonna hold off on the game systems, and I could go to my cousin's house and play them anyway. So they were like, "Whoa, we'll get you one later."
Do you remember the moment you saw the blood code for Mortal Kombat?
Oh, dude,
The very first time.
that's epic. Yeah, I was at my cousin's house,
Yeah.
and they like hacked it and did whatever. And
Hacked.
yeah, that's what
Cheat
I'm
code.
saying. Yeah, they
Old school 90s hacks.
exactly. Yeah, they cheat coded that shit, and all of a sudden you could see blood,
Dude.
and it was like instantly it became real. Like for us, it was like,
It was one of those moments as a child. I remember the exact moment at some random person's house, and they did it, and I was just like, "What the?" Didn't know it existed. I think at that time the only thing I had Mortal Kombat on was Game Boy. So obviously my experience with Mortal Kombat, I played on the arcade, and I'm just like, "Oh."
yeah.
I go into see somebody playing it on like the Sega Genesis, and they had the blood code, and I was just like, whoa, dude. That was one of the biggest things as a kid that like blew my mind as in video games.
Yeah. To be able to do that, and
Mortal Kombat.
and that's something with me that was very big for me, and that's also how I was introduced to Mortal Kombat. Was through Sega Genesis and all the game systems, and for me, fighting games like Mortal Kombat and
Street
Fighter, dude,
huge in the 90s.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother topic for another time.
Yeah.
But martial arts, big in the 90s.
Yeah,
Big.
okay,
in the
who's your
90s.
favorite martial arts action like star in the 90s growing up, or in the 80s and 90s? Like, I know you always talk about Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
Right?
Jean-Claude Van Damme was huge, dude. I know you got Chuck Norris. A lot of people don't credit Chuck Norris, though. There's a lot of people who either love him or hate him.
Yeah.
And so, but for me in the 90s, it would probably be Jean-Claude Van Damme. He was all over the movie screen. My dad had a bunch of the movies, and so that was something. My dad was a collector of all the VHSs.
Nice.
He loved to have movies,
Yeah.
and that was always his thing, was like action stars and martial artists. And so Jean-Claude Van Damme for me was a big one, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot.
Imagine if Arnold Schwarzenegger could do what Jean-Claude Van Damme would do.
He would even...
Were they ever in a movie together?
Later, I think they're both in the Expendables, I want to say. I don't know if you saw that movie, The
Yeah.
Expendables, and
Well,
it
yeah,
has
everyone's
it
in
has
there.
basically
Everyone,
from like the 80s and 90s.
I remember Time Cop. We rented that,
Time
came
Cop.
home and watched and put it on, and then there was a scene where the chick's like butt naked, showing her tits, and I was just like, oh, and they were like trying to shut it off, you know.
Yeah,
But that was good times. I love Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
they're good, dude. He was pretty good. There's a lot of people that say that he was kind of like fake.
Really?
There's
It's a movie. What do you want him to do? Stab somebody on?
They want him to be like a legit martial
So
artist.
he was literally
like,
Johnny Cage.
Johnny
Jean-Claude Van Damme
Cage,
is Johnny
Where
Cage.
do you get these guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, dude, the summer of the 90s,
It was the best.
it was
There's
the
a lot
best.
of things we still got to go over. Like, I want to talk about, like, dude, before skateboarding, there was rollerblading. Okay?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rollerblades were the best, dude. The 90s.
I'll put on some rollerblades today.
Just, it was good times, dude.
Yeah, dude. But at the end of the day, man, there's nothing like summers in the 90s.
It's nostalgia, baby. That's what I live for.
Yeah,
Think
man.
about it all day.
Mm-hmm. And we could talk about it forever. We could go back and forth and just talk about everything. But there's certain things about the 90s and summers in the 90s that sit in the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
And you could probably see it when I talk about it. I get very nostalgic is the word, but
You always talk about that scene, and we'll leave it in everyone's mind as we close out on today's episode. But the scene from A New Hope, Luke looking at the sunset, sunsets.
Yeah, sunsets. There's two of them.
Yeah, dude,
And
that's
even more epic.
that moment in itself is basically how I feel in my heart. That special,
Mm-hmm.
you get butterflies almost.
Yeah,
That nostalgia.
that music hits,
Oh.
and you feel exactly how he's feeling
Yeah.
in that moment. And yeah, that's a great way to.
And instead of the two sun setting or moons or whatever the hell they are, it's the 90s. All right, brother. It's been another fun time in the dojo.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's been great. So until next time.
Until next time, we'll catch you later. Yo, 90s nostalgia, good time shit.
Dude, that episode for me, that was amazing, dude. I'm so happy to be here with you and
Absolutely.
experience that. And just for the episodes coming, but having that one already in the book, it's exciting times, man.
Dude, I mean, yeah, exciting, scary, all kinds of weird shit going on lately, but we are excited to bring you more episodes of Back to the Basics. This is a really passion project of me and Eddie.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be a good time. And we hope you can join us on our eternal quest, obviously, every Saturday morning to get back to the basics.
Yes, sir.
Until then, we got all kinds of social media shit.
Yep.
Right.
Check out our Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere that podcasts are available. You can find Back to the Basics.
Also, too, once again, I'll remind you, video podcasts are over on YouTube. Back to the Basics. The audio versions on your favorite audio podcast platform.
Mm-hmm.
So different ways to digest the content.
Don't forget, we do Twitch
Yeah, live streams.
live streams.
You want
yeah.
me? You want to see Eddie lose in Mario Kart?
Not gonna happen.
That
I'm the
belt
Mario
over
Kart
there?
King. So
Dude, that belt just got my name on it.
oh, it says Mario Kart champ, but basically it just says Eddie.
It says
So-
Back to the Basics. Josh is the champ.
Till next time, safe travels and
Stay nostalgic, and we'll catch you guys next Saturday morning as we continue our eternal quest to get back to the basics.